expressed on all radio shows broadcast on KYOK are entirely those of the host, guests, and callers who are entirely responsible for all show content and do not in any way reflect the opinions of KYOK Radio, its sponsors, staff, or management.
Woo.
You walk out on that field today. Ask yourself this question. What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Game time! What time is it? Let's go! Weaver! 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 I'm going to the house! I'm going to the house! When I step on the field, I send one message. This is what it feels like. This is what it feels like. That's it. It's gonna be football now. What time is it? Game time. What time is it? Game time. What time is it? Game time. What time is it? It's hot now. It's hot now. It's hot. Fever. I'm going to the house. I'm going to the house. We're talking about the Jets like we're talking about the Saints. You know, all this hollering, we the Miami Heat of football. Yeah. The bottom line is you got to buckle up the chin straps. It's embarrassing. Yeah. Don't disrespect the game like that. It's too much crying from him. He's a man. He can be a kid just like us.
He's a man.
You already make the big money. He's a man. I'm proud of you step on the field, man. That's who I am. When I step on the field, I send one message. This is what it feels like.
Oh, my bad.
You had to work in my world. What time is it? Game time. What time is it? Game time. What time is it? Game time. What time is it?
Let's go. Let's go.
Weaver. I'm going to the house. I'm going to the house. It's a wrap. Game over.
This game ain't hardly over. It's just getting started. It's a brand new year, man. I ain't done this since last year, and I feel like I forgot how to do it. So I decided to come back bigger, better, stronger than ever, and I brought help all the way from Louisiana. It's Mr. David Grubb, host of Hard to Paint. What's up, brother? How you been?
I've been through some stuff.
I've been through the flood, but you still here.
That's right. You know, just things change, but we keep moving on. So that's all it is to it. You know, I'm just glad to be here with you. One of the home bases, man. So always a pleasure to talk to you and your
man. It's a pleasure having you back, brother. It's been a minute. You've been off doing great things, and you know, hey, you still David Grubb. You still family, brother. You still family.
Well, that's all that matters. As long as I keep a seat at the table, you know, and when I come back to the home, the door's open. That's all.
Brother,
that's all you want.
And that's all. All you got to do is say, I want the door open. It'll be on. Lights will be on. The plate will be set. So, man, it's good to see you, brother. Happy New Year. Happy 2022. How did you bring it in, man? What did you do to bring in 2022?
I went to sleep early. My baby girl is in Colorado with my dad. She went on a little ski vacation for the holidays.
Must be nice.
Must be. But unfortunately for her, a lot of the mountains were shut down, but she still got to hang out. She's going to be back. Her flight got canceled. She was supposed to be back today, so she's not coming back till Wednesday now because of the weather. Up there.
She's not caught up in the middle of all those flight cancellations and all of that, is she?
Yeah, so she's going to come back on Wednesday. But without her, you know, this year I just said, let's play it low key. So I just went to sleep early, watched some games on that day, and that was about it.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, there were some games, and then of course there were the games on that Friday. Alabama did what folks thought that they would do over Cincinnati. I think the bigger surprise was the way that Michigan got manhandled, and I don't mean to say it like that. I know you got a little bit of a heart in Michigan, but I was surprised that Georgia handled Michigan the way that they did. What were your thoughts there?
Yeah, I was surprised too, because what Michigan had done the last couple of games, whether it was the Big Ten championship or the game against Ohio State, was really beat people up physically.
Yeah.
And Georgia just did not allow them to get anything going. It's it's always hard for me to judge bowl games. I'm not a fan of the whole process because there is so much time between the last game of the season and the bowl season, and these teams have taken this time off, and players have made business decisions, and all those things happen. You're not really getting the same team that you played at the end of the season. There are very few people who are good at that, and you see that Alabama is an exception to that rule year in and year out. But I don't think Michigan is 20 points worse than Georgia. I just don't believe that. Or if they played 10 times, it wouldn't play out that way. But on that day, Georgia beat them. And I think we both say going into this is that we think Alabama's going to beat Georgia, and we'll move on to next year, and we'll start this over again as who's going to beat Alabama.
David Grubb, host of Hard to Paint, he's voice of Tulane basketball and a lot of other things. MLBbro.com, right here back on the show. And we're just kind of, just bringing in the new year, a lot of attention on the college football playoff. I think the majority of the world, so to speak, got what they wanted with Alabama and Georgia. I'm in the minority. I didn't want to see this. I did not want to see the SEC dominate the college football championship discussion because there's a lot of other good football around the country.
But that's the whole problem with this system, is that we continue to think that it's based on trying to create a national champion, and it's not. This is a TV show. It's a TV show, and the ratings are about securing stars. Bama's the star. Bama's the star. So as long as Bama's in, TV doesn't care. They don't care whether you like Bama, whether you hate Bama, whether Bama's been on there 37 times in the last 38 years. Don't matter. They'll put them on and you get.
Yep.
Georgia is just
in wrestling, we call that the heel. Bama's the heel. I don't care if they're getting a lot of love as Hulk Hogan in the yellow, or if they're getting a lot of hate with Hulk Hogan in the Wolfpack. I mean, that's what sells tickets. They got what they wanted. They did not want Cincinnati, Michigan. They did not want Alabama, Michigan, and they definitely didn't want Cincinnati, Georgia. So they got what they wanted.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama, Michigan could have been very good just because historically those are both national programs. Mm-hmm. Those are teams that have fan bases that go from east to west coast and internationally. Georgia's not the same, but you're going to get an impassioned fan base that's going to watch. So the whole Southeast will be tuned in because that's who drives college football anyway. It's the Southeast. So those folks will be tuned in, and it's the national championship game. So casual folks will tune in, and they'll get the ratings that they want. And that's what this whole thing is about.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you make the playoff 8 teams, 12 teams, 16 teams. It doesn't matter because ultimately this is about the Power 5 conferences. And really it's about 2. It's about the SEC and the other 4.
Right.
That's really what this is about. Where the money goes is the SEC and the other 4 trying to figure out how they can make as much money as the SEC. And any expansion that gets done will be about the Power 5 getting more money.
Yeah. David Grubb, host of Hard to Pay, joining us here on the show. It's Oh My Goodness Monday. We're broadcasting live on KYOKradio.org, AM 1140, 92.3. We're on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Roku. If you've got a Roku streaming device, you can download it. You can watch us right there in the middle of your big screen TV. You want to look for BS3 TV, BS3 TV. And I want to thank Ben Sutter III getting us on Roku. All right, David, you said to me, what is the problem? Why are these college athletic directors, presidents, powers that be allowing themselves to be dictated by the SEC and ESPN, or as I call it, SEC SPN?
Because there's never been integrity in college. The dollars. So when it was Notre Dame, that's who got all the power. When it was Ohio State, that's who got all the power. In the 1970s, it was Ohio State. In the 1980s, it was Oklahoma and Nebraska had all the sway. That's why they were able to go to the Supreme Court and make money off of TV broadcasts, because Oklahoma and Nebraska wanted that power. So they got it in the 80s. And then in the 90s, as it expanded into the SEC, and they really started to take over as the South rose up in Florida and Alabama and all those programs started to come back. Now that's who has all the television eyeballs. And so that's who controls everything. This whole thing has nothing to do with education. This is purely about the television networks. And so the SEC is in bed with ESPN and ABC. And that's Disney money. So you can't beat them.
Right.
There's no way to have more money than they do. So with that being the case, and ESPN being the most powerful voice in college sports, who else are you going to listen to? And that's the whole part of this, is that we have to stop pretending that this is anything other than the entertainment business.
Mm-hmm.
This has nothing to do with schools and fairness and education
Mm-hmm.
and equal opportunities. It has nothing to do with this. It's the entertainment business.
Yeah.
And the minute we do that, a lot of athletic directors are going to be in a different position. And I think a lot of journalists and fan bases can start being honest with themselves about what it is they're watching. But we're trying not to preserve this historical view of what college sports is to make us feel good about it.
Right.
But it's just entertainment. And that's what we have to get to. And if we get to that, we can be honest and really start to deal with some of the changes that need to get made.
So David, do you ever see a scenario, and I hear that that's part of what was going on with the negotiations with, expansion, and 1 minute it was the hottest thing going, and then the next minute it's 2025, 2027 possibly before it happens, because there are some conferences and schools that don't want ESPN to have as much power in the college football playoff landscape as they do.
It's not possible, because ESPN is always going to be a subsidiary of ABC. And if they're a subsidiary of ABC, you cannot discount how much money that they have. And you show me another sports network right now that's a viable alternative to push ESPN off their perch. It's not Fox Sports.
Yeah.
They don't have that ability.
Yeah.
And so as long as ESPN controls the voting, they control, the understanding of who's going to win the Heisman, they control the perception of who the best coaches are, they control everything. They have all the networks under their control. They got the Big Ten network is under their auspices. The Pac-12 is going to fall into all this stuff eventually. So it's just, unless somebody can take ESPN out of the equation, then you're stuck. There's just too much money that they have at play in this, and they're trying to drive people to their network.
Right.
So, of course, they have a vested interest in which teams, the ones that show on their network, are going to get supported and which ones aren't. And there's a reason you got Kirk Herbstreit out there yelling about kids not playing in bowl games. That has nothing to do with the concern for those kids. It has everything to do with the ratings for ESPN. And that's what this is about. And, I think the athletes should really be paying attention to how this conversation continues to go, because they're the smallest part of the discussion. It has nothing to do with their well-being. It has everything to do with schools talking about who's going to get what, and nobody's talking about what the athletes are going to receive.
David Grubb dropping it real hot for us right here in a brand new year. Our first, oh my goodness, Monday of 2022 here on the lunch break. BS3 Network, Ben Sutter III, good shout out to you, brother. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to look at that Kirk Herbstreit situation a little bit more because, again, you nailed it. We'll be right back with David Grubb and more right after this on the lunch break on the legendary KYOK. David, I'll be right back, brother.
If you have $2,000 or more in credit card debt, then listen up. We can reduce or eliminate your interest rates. Cut your monthly payment up to 50% and stop all late fees. Our company has been helping good people just like you get out of debt for over 30 years. Don't get stressed out. If you have $2,000 or more in credit card debt and medical bills, we can show you a way to reduce all of your bills to one lower monthly payment that you can afford. So again, if you have $2,000 or more in credit card debt and medical bills you can't afford, make this free call today and learn how you can finally get out of debt. Call now for your free consultation. 800-638-7112. 800-638-7112. 800-638-7112. That's 800-638-7112. Sponsored by Credit Card. Life can be full of risks. One thing you shouldn't take a risk with ever is your family's health insurance. If you're self-employed or you now need affordable health insurance, you need to make this free call right now and see how the Health Insurance Helpline can help you get it. We specialize in helping the self-employed and people just like you that need affordable health insurance to get it. We have short and long-term health insurance plans, and some even cover dental, vision, and prescription drugs. Don't take a risk with your
your family's health insurance, it's not worth it. If you're self-employed or now need affordable health insurance, call right now and learn for free how to get it. Listen, affordable health insurance plans for everyone just like you are a free phone call away. So give us a shout right now.
800-472-5145. 800-472-5145. 800-472-5145. That's 800-472-5145.
The legendary KYOK 1140 AM and 92.3 FM. The legend continues.
All right, listen, I want two pair. Buy me two pair so I can get to stepping in my Air Force Ones, David Grubb. I didn't want to come into 2022 by myself. 2 twos mean you need 2 stars, and David Grubb is enough star for both of us.
I won't run from it. I'll take it.
Brother,
I thank you for the compliment.
Hard to Paint just hit how many listeners recently? Was it 20,000?
20,000.
Yeah, come on, man. Come on. You got to love that.
I'm doing all right, but it's much more testament, I think, to the people that I have on the show. I give them so much credit. Anybody who listens knows that like I try not to make myself the center of the show. Yeah. I just want to ask questions, and I want to have a dialogue. That's really what the pod is about. It's about dialogues about a lot of these different subjects that we talk about. Sometimes they're light, sometimes they're heavier. But I always think that I try to put the guest on the spotlight and make sure that they come out and people have a better understanding of what they think and what that person is about when it's done. So, as much as I do with it, I just think that I'm fortunate to have the people who have been associated with it, who have come on and have just been outstanding guests and just treat me like the questions I'm saying matter. So, that's the part that I really enjoy is just talking to all these new folks. And, I just think this year we'll do more and it'll be bigger. And there's so many people I have on my wanted list that I'm going to go after. And so this year should be the biggest yet.
Yeah, bro. I can't wait. Keith Hennig just gave you a lot of love. 20,000.
Yes, sir, Keith.
Yeah. We were talking about Kirk Herbstreit before the break. I'm trying to be polite. I know I've got people out there that really like him. Good man. I respected what he said during, the whole situation with George Floyd and how people of color are not treated well, Black people in particular. But this is not a first for Kirk Herbstreit. This is not a first for him. This is not the first time that he misspoke. I'm using his words, that he misspoke and literally put everyone on in a position that literally benefits him and everyone like him at the network that he works for. Saying that the young people in this generation do not love football all because they choose to opt out of bowl games that are predominantly covered by the network that Kirk Herbstreit works for. And then to try to come back and retract that and said, I didn't mean to put everybody, under the same microscope. I didn't mean to offend, all these different people. But there are some that don't love football and they'd rather opt out. It's just as reckless and short-sighted and selfish and, blind and ignorant as he could possibly be.
And it plays into those narratives too of that. I love that the hypocrisy of these stereotypes, because on the one hand you say we're naturally talented at these games and that we excel at them because of our natural talent, and on the other hand you say we don't work hard enough and then we don't love what we're doing. We don't put the understanding and the effort into this, and we don't respect the game. That's what this is about. It's not about white kids. This always comes down to the Black athletes. That's who this always comes down to, is the Black athletes. And because those are the by and large the kids who make up these things, the kids who have to make the decisions, the hard decisions to leave. They don't get to leave their schools, to go pro because it's something that they just want to do. A lot of times they are the one who the family is waiting for. If we need you to make it, like the Stephon Marburys of the world, where you see them cry on draft day. It's not just about them. It's not about living a dream. It's about getting your family out of something. And that's what these kids are forced to deal with from the age of 16, 17 years old. They go to college and they are not thinking about their own futures. They're thinking about the entire generational wealth of their families. And you go put that burden on a 21-year-old and then tell them that they don't love the game of football because they made a business decision that could impact their children, their mothers, their fathers, all these people. And you tell them they don't love the game of football because they're not willing to put themselves on the line for free in an exhibition. 99.9%, other than those 2 semifinal games of the bowl games, mean nothing. There's nothing to gain for you. You don't get it might add to your stats or whatever, but there's no conference title on the line. There's no national title on the line. There's no chance for you to gain anything out of it other than another game and another chance at injury. And if you want to play, that's up to you. Do what you got to do. But if I opt out of an exhibition, you tell me, if you go up to Gordon Ramsay, who's one of the best chefs in the world, right? And you say, Gordon, I need you to cook for free. Is he going to cook for free for you? If there's a business decision to be made, he's not making that for you. He's not doing it. People in our business, if somebody comes up to us and says, I want you to come host a show for me for 3 hours, are you going to do it out the kindness of your heart? No. It's you, just because you love your work doesn't mean you don't want to be compensated for it or for the risk that you take. And that's all these young men are asking.
And year after year after year after year until you graduate, you are supposedly indebted to the Kirk Herbstreits, the fan base, your team, because that's the new mark. Well, you gave up on your team. What's the kid from Mississippi, Matt Corral?
Yep.
What did his team do for him now? And I hope it's not a season-ending, life-impacting injury, but it was a real-life perspective of how these young people can sacrifice, give their all, and literally get nothing in return. And it's not all about money. They are not obligated to us because they chose to play a sport. They're good enough to earn scholarships. They're not passing out scholarships on the corner. They didn't just happen to be walking by when Oklahoma gave out a scholarship or when UT gave out a scholarship. They earned that, and it was competitive. It was a competitive situation. They chose you.
They need you.
You're telling me they are furthermore indebted because they chose you to earn $40,000, $50,000. Give me a break.
No, you're not. Just same way. Again, I think the part that people forget the most about it's an exhibition. It's not a regular season game. If it had been week 10 of the regular season and somebody said, I don't feel like playing today, well, we might have a discussion to make.
A little different.
But you're asking these kids to play in exhibitions for no reason other than the glory of the school.
Right.
And that's not why I came here. If you got an academic scholarship, I came here to get my education, right? If somebody says, well, just because you're here on this academic scholarship, we want you to participate in this. I don't owe you that. Yeah. I came here to get my grades. If I came here to play football, you're telling me, because now that's what you're saying to me, is that my obligation to the university is come here to play football. You keep telling me these education things matter. You keep telling me these other things matter. But when it comes down to it, what you really want is just for me to owe you my body for football. And that's all that they really want out of these kids. So to say that they're the ones being selfish when they are the ones who are putting this up, and we're asking young people again, where in life do we ask young people to give up their privileges and rights for older people without knowing what that sacrifice means? When I make the sacrifice for my child, when I make the sacrifice for somebody else, I'm an adult and I know I am fully invested in what I'm giving up. When you're 21 and people your whole life are telling you that you are part of this structure, that you are part of the team and the coach is sacrosanct and the team is sacrosanct and all this stuff, and you've been bullied into that, and I'm going to use that word because that's what that culture is.
Yeah.
When you're bullied into that understanding of that you are secondary always in this culture, and you're asking kids to make those decisions, it's not fair. It's an imbalanced power structure. And it's not right for those kids to have the burden of holding this system up for everybody else, because it has nothing to do with protecting them. It has nothing to do with making sure they get the best things out of life. What lesson are they learning by completing an unnecessary exhibition to put your body on the line that you will get nothing out of? Not a dollar, not more fame, nothing. Nothing will come out of it for you. Only people who benefit are your coach and your school. You get nothing. You might get a little grab bag or whatever that you get at most of these bowls. But even that PlayStation, if you get a PlayStation 5, it's not worth what potentially could happen to your body on that field of play.
Absolutely. And you keep bringing up a good point. Kirk Herbstreit conveniently overlooked the Brian Kellys, the Lincoln Rileys, the other coaches that left their teams before the bowl game to go and coach other programs. And if I'm not mistaken, almost 100% of them got more money than where they were before they left, before the bowl game. So are we saying that they love the sport of football more than the kids do?
Yeah, they didn't stay with those kids and hold out their obligation. They didn't hold out their obligation to their contracts, which is what essentially a scholarship is a 1-year contract. It's not a 4-year deal. It's not guaranteed year to year.
It isn't.
So these kids have to prepare themselves for every eventuality. When a new coach comes in, I have to start looking because that coach is going to decide whether or not they want me. And if they decide after the fact that I wanted to stay, but they want me to go, I'm at a loss here.
Yeah.
So they have to look out for themselves first because who else is doing it for them? Their coach is not looking out for their best interest. The coach is looking out for the coach's best interest, for the program's best interest, not the players. So if you don't have an advocate other than your parents, who in a lot of cases don't understand how to navigate the system anyway, and you're not allowed to touch base with an agent, you're not allowed to touch base with people who could really advise you in these matters because this is your business,
right?
Then it's just not fair and it's not right. And as long as athletes continue to stand up for them, I'm going to stand up and support them.
832-619. AJ, my son did not play in a very big bowl that was played this weekend. He is projected to be a second-round pick in the upcoming draft. He made the decision. I supported my son. We were vilified.
I don't think it's right to vilify anybody for making the decision that they want to make if they've been fully informed. I'm not going to vilify anybody if it says they want to play. That's your choice. As long as you know the risk and you go out there and you make the choice, that's between you and your family to make your choice. But I'm not going to vilify anybody who chooses not to play either. Yeah. You know, your choice is your choice. Now, again, like the case of Matt Corral, he's going to get second guessed forever because of this. Does it change where he gets drafted? Does it change how much guaranteed money he gets? Does it change the situation that he starts his career in? All those things are legitimate questions to ask. I don't think anybody should be degrading someone because of a decision that they make, but I don't think we should be forcing anybody to make a decision either.
I got to take a break, but this person texted me back. They said, these people loved us, my son and my family, when he performed, in quotes. But as soon as he chose himself and his future, we were bad people.
Your body only matters. It only matters what you can do for them. You know, they don't care after how many of these kids after they graduate, after they just, let's just say they're done playing, graduate or not. How many of these alumni are going to invite one of those players into their homes to have a meal with them? The same person that they were cheering on Saturdays and saying, holding that number up and loving on them, let them walk up to their house and say, can I come in and have a meal? I'm an alum. Can I come on in and have a meal with you? It ain't happening.
You better leave that movie One Night in Miami alone. You better leave that alone. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with more. David Grubb joining me here on the lunch break. Oh my goodness, Monday. If you want to get in, you can call 281-453-1000. That's 281-453-1000, or text me 832-403-5005, or you can email aj@kyoksports.com. It's oh my goodness Monday.
Are you looking to start a business? From side hustles to major business opportunity, Franchise 123 connects franchise buyers with sellers. And we have over 4,000
Yeah, I know who this is. This his son's team was in the Sugar Bowl, and he got vilified.
If you don't give us your body, what are you worth?
Franchise database in the world. You can find 95.
You have no value to us at all.
Buying a franchise doesn't have to be.
Kid played there for 4 years, stayed that extra year because of COVID, and now all of a sudden, one game, and they're the villain.
Sign up with Franchise 123 now. Get your free guide to franchise success now. Call 800-419-5344.
Perfect timing. Stay by.
419-5344. Or text Franchise 123.
Got a real good caller.
Text Franchise 123.
All right.
635.
I think we get ready to shift to AB.
All right.
1140 AM. The legendary KYOK
92.3 FM. Two radio stations in one.
We are.
With your boy TD Blackshear every Tuesday from 10 to 11 a.m. on the legendary KYOK 1140 a.m. and 92.3 FM. See you there. I'm Ben Tankett, and you are listening to The Lunch Break.
All right, y'all. We're back here on the lunch break on the legendary KYOK, all new 92.3 FM, streaming live, KYOKradio.org. We're also on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Roku. That's right. You got a Roku streaming device. Download BS3 TV. B as in boy, S as in Sam, 3 TV. And guess what? You got us right there, right in the middle of your big screen. Thanks, Ben Sutter III, for that. Let me go to the phone line real quick. David Grubb and I are talking about some pretty interesting issues today on Oh My Goodness Monday. Hello, you're live on the lunch break. Who's this?
L-Dub, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, L-Dub. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing wonderful, man. Wonderful.
Now, for those who don't know, L-Dub has been on the show before. He is an agent, has managed professional athletes for a long time, and he's got 2 phenomenal sons that are pretty good athletes in their own right and doing great things with what they're doing in their lives right now. L-Dub, what's up for today for you, man?
Man, just trying to unthink all this stuff that's been going on in the world, man. Just trying to process it all.
You had some strong feelings about Antonio Brown last night. What were your thoughts there?
You know, and I'll let everybody know. I mean, you're someone I really confide in as far as, you know, their opinion and direction, you know, I should go, or anyone else that I knew should go. So when I called you, it was puzzling me. Like, do we blame the kids sometime, or do we blame the coaches, the parents? It's a big conundrum of things that come together that make this. But what he did is what I try to explain to people was make a choice. And if you're smart enough to process a choice, like I'm gonna do this, and this, you're smart enough to know what's right and what's wrong. And what he did totally was wrong for his teammates, for the people, his agents that probably worked countless hours to get in that job, to everybody that was involved with him being there that day, you know, the people who helped you when you was a kid. And for him to just get that moment to say, you know what, I don't care what people are going to think about all them or myself, I'm leaving. And just to leave goes to show how, I guess I want to say, selfish, and how these guys are players, whatever, whomever, think it's all about them. And they don't give consideration to all the other people that have worked to help you get there or put their name on the line. And it's so quick for them to throw it away. You know, even though he has made millions of dollars, he's still not, with all the people on the street starving and homeless and everything, he's still not, you know, in that predicament, even though he walked away. But with no consideration of all the people, you know, who made it possible for him to be there that day.
L-Dub, now you know I love you, and I feel the same way about you as you feel about me. Let me just, whether I disagree with you or not, I want to kind of throw some opposing views at you. And I know David Grubb, host of Hard in the Paint, might have some that he wants to chime in. So this is by no means a reflection on you or indictment against you or anything like that. First thing that came to mind, what you said, Antonio Brown is not responsible for the homeless people of the world. He's not responsible for the folks that are less than, because no matter how much money Antonio Brown makes playing the sport, he'll never be as rich as the owner that is employing him to play the sport. And if they're not concerned about things like that, it's kind of hard to always put that burden on the athlete themselves. And I kind of almost want to take Antonio Brown out of it, because, you know, he's a lightning rod. People have strong feelings about him, whether it's good or bad. It's kind of hard to be in the middle. But that's one that always makes me feel like, why are we holding the athlete, the employee, to a higher standard than we hold the actual owner, the person that really has the money to make the difference in those kind of situations?
Right. And that's a very valid point. my thing is, we are only talking about Antonio Brown's actions. That's kind of like saying, okay, my son did something, but he did what I've been telling him to do all along, and then someone says, okay, but he's 29, he's old enough to make his decision whether it's right or wrong, so he does it, and then they say, let's blame his father. Well, you don't know what I've told him all those years. I don't know what the owners have told. I'm only dealing with his actions for that situation. I'm not, and I'm not trying to belittle, but I do go back to being a coach, being a father, knowing what my role is, and my role is not to be a fan of all these top athletes. It's to be a guidance person or a person who disciplines when they're out of line, and that's not happening with not only athletes, not happening with business people or anyone. The world has gotten away from discipline.
I don't think
and accountability, but go
accountability.
I don't think the world has ever gotten away from accountability and discipline. The world's never had accountability and discipline. Let's just be real. Accountability has always been selective. Always been selective. Who gets held accountable for things has always been selective. And the athletes in this country have always been a privileged class in one way or another. That's not a new development. Look, we talk about Texas. You in Texas. Let's go back how many years we can talk about athletes in Texas who got a pass, for different reasons. In any state, high schools, whatever. They make movies about this for a reason, about high school athletes who got the pass from all the way through, never, graduated high school with no skills. That's not a new development, about people getting lack of discipline. And I don't want to make Antonio Brown a referendum on a whole system, because I don't know if he's the person to make a referendum on. Antonio Brown, to me, is a person you talk about the case of Antonio Brown. And what do we know about Antonio Brown? Well, we know that he's dealt with a lot of issues off the field in general. We know he's had cases of assault that have been brought against him, accusations of sexual assault, physical assault against his family and his children, things like that. Those are things that go beyond what happens on the football field. So how do I parse that into his behavior on the football field and the things that he's done? I have to take it into context of somebody who lives with mental illness. But not to excuse. Again, the first part of mental illness and dealing with our behavior is that we know that what you do does not excuse you from consequences. When I watched that video of Antonio Brown, it reminded me of things that I've done in my past, in ways that I've quit jobs in my past, when I was younger and before I was diagnosed and before I had help, because that's how I would go out. When you go out, you go big, because you're trying to make a statement. All those things about the people, those things don't matter in your head in those moments. And I'm assuming I'm putting myself in his head in that moment, because it's in those things you feel what you are doing is righteous. The way that you're leaving is righteous, because the way he feels is that he's standing on principle. That the story that's come out is that he felt that he was injured. He didn't want to play because he was hurt, and that he had been doing his rehab and all these things, that he told the team he wasn't ready to play, and they wanted to push him out there. And so that became the boiling point, and he says, I'm out. Now, you can talk about all the other things, the COVID things. Those are all part of the pattern of behavior. It's not just entitlement. If I take these other larger things into perspective, this is how damaged people act. This is how damaged people act, because he destroys things that are close to him, because that's all you can destroy. And that's what I did. Like, to be brutally honest, I walked out of jobs. I came out of buildings and stuff where I came into the day knowing if somebody says something to me today, today's the day I'm quitting and I'm going out big. And I had done those things. So when Bruce Arians says stuff like, I hadn't seen that look in his eye in a while, I know that look because people have seen it in me at different times. None of that is to excuse what he's done, because he's got to live with his consequences. People, you still operate in the real world, and you have to live with what you do. But I would say we have to look at this as an Antonio Brown issue. First and foremost, what does Antonio Brown need to be a functional member of society? Is he in danger? Is he in danger to others? These are questions that I want to know, but I'm not going to defend his actions on the field and say that those things are okay because of that. But we do need to find out, because when we see over the last few years, we talk about the more and more these football players. A football player died in his hotel room, drank himself to death, but had the brain damage of a man in his 70s. And he's 33 years old, 34 years old. When you see these types of things, these chronic brain injuries, and we see Antonio Brown's behavior, it does make you wonder, what is the intersection between your natural mental aptitude, what's happened to you due to football, and then those behaviors of society. So all those three things are converging on this one person. And I think that's the way we have to start looking at these things is Antonio Brown, we all want to say he's good or he's bad. This works or it doesn't. What isn't working? What is good? What is bad? Because he's still a person. And that's the main thing is like he's still a human being. And we have to figure out for this human being, I can't have this person in any state as a citizen of the world. I don't want that man out there and he's not healthy. If he's out there and he can hurt somebody, then that's not good for any of us, including himself. If he could do damage to himself in some way, that's not good for any of us. So I think that's where we have to start looking at these things in a much more holistic manner of how do all of these things impact? What is the NFL doing and its culture of allowing these types of things to happen? What are we doing before we allow these young men to get to high school and college and NFL? And what are we doing about their overall mental health, about our overall mental health? And what are these things and what are we looking for? And are we out there trying to correct behavior or judge it? And it seems to me that most of our perspective comes from, and I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying as a society, most of our perspective comes from how quickly can we judge somebody's behavior before how quickly can we correct their behavior and in turn correct all of us.
Yeah. That's why I want to have this open discussion. And L-Dub, I want you to go ahead and respond because I know the heart of the three men on this call. And for those who can't see him, we got L-Dub, Larry Williams, joining us on the show. He is he's been an agent, he's been a coach, been a professional player. He's been there. So, again, he's coming from a different perspective, myself, as well as David Grubb. Go ahead, L-Dub. I know you wanted to respond.
Yes. And Mr. Grubb, definitely, I totally hear you. And believe me, I'm not coming from a judgmental point. One thing I don't do is I don't judge. I don't have a judgment. I'm talking about a personal situation, like, was it right or was it wrong? That's not a judgment. That's my opinion. Mm-hmm. That's it. And I would never judge Antonio or anyone else because, like I say, the sport of football is very brutal. I have a son who plays professional football. I know what it does. At the same time, what I'm only speaking of, and you hit it at the end, is as we're growing up and we're these kids' coaches, and they're great. They're the best players in high school, in the whole state. Instead of being a fan of them, now it's when you really show them how life really is. Life doesn't care whether you can run a 100-yard dash in a 9.2. If you're out here trying to sexually assault someone, or if you're trying to steal from someone, life don't care about that. And we're not telling our kids that. We're saying, oh, yeah, you're going to make it to the NFL. You're going to make it to the NBA. And when you get there, all those people that doubted you, meaning people who said, you need to change this pattern of behavior. You need to stop doing this. You need to, take a look at the people you hang with. When that, just giving them that information, they're taking it as these are people who, oh man, they hating. And that's the method of the world today. And no one, I'm not hating Antonio. Antonio is very gifted. I enjoy seeing him play, but never, even if it was my son, and he would have did that, would I condone that? Would I say that was acceptable? And that's all I'm saying. It's just not accepted. And I don't care who it was. And, what player, who it was, it just wasn't acceptable. And those are the things I'm saying. We know the difference between right and wrong. Just do what's right. And then the rest of it is take care because you'll have people backing you to make sure because they'll know it's right. But when you do things wrong, you lose the people that even are close to you because they don't want to be affiliated with wrongdoing. No one does.
Yeah. I'm just saying that all I'm saying is like in that moment, if he is like all I can say is if because I don't know for certain. I don't like I'm not a doctor, and it's not appropriate to diagnose anybody. You're not a doctor, so I'm not that. But all I can say is just from similarities of behavior. All I can say is that in those moments, when you feel that there's nothing anybody can tell you, there's nothing anyone can tell you, because like I said, it doesn't matter. I've had those moments when people who I care to say, you might want to calm down for a second. When you're in it, it's not over until it's over. Yeah. And then when it's over, all that sets in and it all settles and you start realizing I did this, and that. Now I got to live with it. Right. And the problem is if you don't have help, what happens is you become more entrenched in that because now you have to defend yourself. Right or wrong, there's nobody else on your side. So it becomes fight or flight. So now my fight is I got to protect myself. So Antonio Brown, I would imagine that as people come to him over the next few days, all he's going to say is, I was right. That's what's going to happen, because he has no choice now, because there's no benefit in him saying, even if he says I was wrong, the same people are not going to welcome him back in the door. He's not getting another job. He's not getting another chance. So what do you have to stand on? I'll just be right by myself. And that's where your mind goes in these circumstances. So I wouldn't be surprised that if anybody who tracks Antonio Brown down over the next few days, all of his statements are going to be really really energetic about how, hey, I love football. Hey, I did what I had to do. This is what it's about. AB is going to be cool. You're going to hear all of that in public for the next few days. But I imagine behind closed doors, he's reckoning with himself and his behavior, but he cannot show that to other people. Because like I said, being in that situation myself, you'd rather be wrong alone than be one of the anonymous people who's also chipping away at what you feel already inside is whatever damage has been done to your character. You feel like the Buccaneers damaged me. They told me they wanted me to go out and I'm hurt and they want to send me out there. I have a problem with them. But now the whole world is on the Buccaneers side in this.
Yeah.
So no matter what, I cannot let those people continue to chip at me. And I'm just saying that not right or wrong. I'm just telling you mentally, that's where I was. And that's where it feels like he is. And so just intuitively, nothing with facts. I don't want anybody to put David Grubb says this is fact. It's not. I'm just saying intuitively, I can say that's where I would feel. That's where I'd be, because that's where I've been.
Let me throw this out real quick, and then guys, unfortunately, we gotta move it. So certified Christian counselor as a pastor, I made sure I did study on counseling, because just because you can preach don't mean you can counsel. Just because you can hoop and holler don't mean you can give people legitimate legal advice. And I'm a big proponent of that. What people hear the word mental health and it sends them in a number of different ways. What they don't understand is you can have a mental health episode, which is what I believe we saw yesterday, and you can have a mental health crisis, which is typically an ongoing repetitive situation. And because folks just get stuck at mental health, and we agree that because you have a mental health challenge, crisis, or episode, it doesn't condone your behavior, but it's not something that you can understand. While that situation, whatever Coach Arians said or the offensive coordinator said, it might have not set you off, but it could have been a very strong trigger for Antonio Brown. And once the trigger is pulled, guess what? He does not have the mental capacity yet to be able to control his behavior. And like you said, his defense mechanism is different than your defense mechanism, L-Dub. It's different than your defense mechanism, David. It's different from mine. So his defense was, I'm right and I'm done. I quit. Here's my jersey. Here are my pads. Here's my gloves. Here's my this. Let me run. Let me show you. Let me peace sign everybody. And now people who are ill prepared to deal with some of their own mental health challenges and crises and issues are experts in his. Don't know him from Adam. Have never consulted or interviewed with him. Nothing other than, hey, what'd you think about the game? What'd you think about that last play? What were you thinking on this play? That does not make you an expert on his mental health. And that's one of the things that I came in today and I said, people are not going to like me because I'm not jumping on him like other people are going to do. I'm not going to question him like other people are. I'm more of the Tom Brady. Let me tell you what Tom Brady said. Tom Brady said, that's obviously a difficult situation. I think we all want him to pause. I think everybody should hopefully do what they can to help him in ways he really needs it. We all love him. We all care about him deeply. We want to see him to be at his best, and unfortunately, it won't be with our team. That was probably the most honest assessment that anyone I have heard had. And I'm not talking about you guys. I'm just talking about in the media, on the team, or anything like that. That was as real as it got right there.
Yeah, because I think Bruce Arians punted on his accountability there, because when it was, why are you welcoming Antonio Brown back after the COVID fake card and all those things went on? He's like, well, the circumstances changed. The circumstances changed. They needed Antonio Brown then.
Right.
Because they had all these unhealthy receivers.
And And Coach, that goes to what you said. That goes to what you said earlier, David. That's where his talent, his skill, and my need for it overweighs anything else that he's got going on. That's a kid who can't read, but we're going to promote him so that he can play varsity. That's a kid who's had problems off the field legally and mentally and relationally, but we're still going to make him, our starting running back in this championship game. That's where those things come to play, and nobody wants to own that part. Everybody wants to focus the light on this young man who had a mental health episode yesterday that most folks don't understand.
Which goes back, AJ, and it's a great point, which goes back to what I was talking about earlier about as kids. They're putting pressure on high school coaches to have to win. Do you want me to win any means necessary, or do you want me to do this where these kids actually get what we're trying to get out of it? And the ones that are good are going to be good, and the ones that are not so good may get better because they're in an environment that's fair. I mean, instead of the other stuff. And we all know, preferential treatment is going to always be around, forever and ever. But does it make it right that we get to choose? Like I said, I'm definitely not judging Antonio Brown. I'm only speaking of the outcome. Is that something that I deem to be positive or negative? Then I would say that was a negative response.
Absolutely. We all agree on that. Yeah, we all agree on that.
So to stop those negative responses, if you start at an early age of telling a kid, no, you missed practice, I don't care that you were starting, you're not. The kid has been here every day. He's going to get his time because you're taking advantage of the situation. Because I put the same measurements on you as I put on him. He has to be here, you have to be here. But they're not doing that. Coaches are so into, I don't know if they have to win, so they got to play the best players, but moral compass to me is the high road. It's like, is it fair that if my son is the best player and he's not coming to practice because he wants to go, get a brand new pair of Jordans and stand in line, he can make it. And this other kid that's, a good enough kid to make my team, he came to practice and he skipped over going to get his Jordan and he practiced. Now we had a game tomorrow. Should my son start? No, because he had a choice. You had a choice, and you chose to do what you did. Guess what? Now I get to make the choice now, and the choice is going to be fair. This kid was here. He's playing. I'm talking about it's that little small change right there would change a lot of these kids' mindset, but that's not it's not happening. So like I said, I don't know whether to blame, whether you put blame on Antonio.
It was everybody. We all complicit.
Right.
We're all complicit in the system.
Yeah.
It's not a one-person blame. And that's the thing, is that it's a lot easier to say Antonio is the bad actor in all of this and not say that the system itself inherently creates bad actors and amplifies what problems you have already. There's what's that old saying, that money does not give you more problems, and it does not change who you are, it reveals who you are. And I think that's a lot of these things too, is that we are not, how much of this is the individual themselves, how much of this is the system that they're put in, how much of this is the pressure that we in society demand of people, and what these, as entertainers and not as athletes, and we start commodifying them and stop looking at them as people and want them to be available to us for all these things. Well, then you can't help but view yourself as special then if society keeps telling you are. But I don't think that that's the one thing. I think there are hundreds of factors at play here that go beyond football. But I think the biggest part of that, we have to stop pretending that coaches are moral centers and that teams have some idea of morality as well. They're institutions, and coaches are employees like everybody else. Not that at your school level and in your neighborhood, we all should probably do a better job of screening those individuals. But we can't expect that from colleges and pros to act like these people care. They do not. We have to assume that they don't.
Yeah. And I know I've been in trouble and rubbed people the wrong way when I said Scott Frost ain't the parent of my child. I'm not gonna put my child's health and safety in his care. And when I hear coaches say, "Oh, they'll get better care here than they will anywhere," no, my child was doing fine from 0 to 18 before he got to you. So you're not the replacement parent for me. And I think you have this mentality where a lot of these coaches feel like they are the best thing for your child. And then we have a situation like what happened under the leadership of DJ Durkin. We got situations that happen where, again, Antonio Brown did not just start manifesting mental health crises and challenges in episodes. That was overlooked by catches and touchdowns and things like that. So now I'm supposed to trust, other coaches to care for my child on and off the field. Again, that's a system thing. That's a culture thing. We worship sports so much that we overlook the reality of the players and the people that are involved in the sports themselves, which makes me go back to ownership. What are they doing to address mental health? We've had so many mental health people with mental health issues on a highest level, from Simone Biles, from Naomi Osaka, from Paul George, from DeMar DeRozan, from Kevin Love, all these folks. And now, we're still wearing "Stop the Hate" on the back of the jersey. Well, how about investing some money to make sure that these people have the mental health that they support that they need inside the building? Coach, I'm not ready for you yet. Right at 1 o'clock, Coach. Right at 1 o'clock. Right at 1 o'clock, if you can hear me. But anyway, those are the kind of things that owners got to start dealing with and stop punting on. And then let's just get to it. If Bruce Arians told a man who felt like he could not go that he had to go, that man made a decision, whether we liked the decision or not. He made a decision. And now you got people wondering whether or not he was really hurt because he was jumping around in the end zone. You ain't no doctor. You're not a doctor. You want to be entertained, and you're demanding to be entertained by Antonio Brown. And I'm sorry, sometimes money is not a motivator to somebody who's dealing with a mental health challenge or crisis.
All that goes out the window in that moment. Everything that you are, everything that you think that you have, all those things, you are not that in that moment. If that's what he was going through, if he had been triggered and he was in an episode, a full-on episode, it's almost like you're watching your own behavior in those. Like if you are removed from it, and then when it's over, you re-inhabit your body. It feels that way. I mean, that's what I can say from personal experience, is that for those however long it goes on, you're removed from your actions because the part of your brain that is responding to that, it's taken over. Yeah. And the decision marking part has left. And then finally you come back when it's over. And I like I said, you're not immune from the consequences. Right. But I'm just telling you what the mindset is, and that's where I've been.
And L-Dub, I'll let you have the final remarks. But here's the thing. A lot of people, I can't condone it. I don't feel sorry. They're not looking for you to feel sorry for them. They're not looking for you to condone them. They're not. In fact, if we're not careful, some people we can push to that next step where you don't want them, and that's suicidal. That's all hope is lost. So that then they become dangerous in ways that you can't even imagine. So sometimes the best opinion is the opinion that's not given. If you're not a mental health professional giving your mental health opinion about someone who is clearly dealing with a crisis that you don't understand, the best thing to do is close your mouth and let somebody else who knows what they're doing have something to say to them and about them. Go ahead, L-Dub.
And I'll add to that, AJ, the fact that what you, David, and I are doing right now is what people should do before they start getting on a computer typing all this crazy stuff. Just call somebody you confide in or you want to know, because we are going to be at a point where we don't understand something. And then that's when you call someone that you think understands or could give you a better insight of that, and you talk about it and discuss it. Because now my feelings about the way I felt yesterday is totally different after talking to you and David today. I mean, because it's information. With more information comes knowledge.
Absolutely.
Knowledge, you become empowered.
Yep.
I mean, so you have to, instead of texting things, typing things, just call somebody and ask somebody who's been in that situation or someone you know that dealt with it, and you'll get a clearer picture and understanding. And definitely, you won't be judgmental. And I want everyone to know that, believe me, my conversation with you was out of concern, not of judgmental. And you know it because I called you, and you can hear it in my voice.
Yep.
I'm troubling with this.
Yep.
It's bothering me.
Yep.
With all the stuff already going on in the world, I mean, you can impact that with what's going on in his mind.
Yep.
I mean, like you said, that's a time bomb. So, again, man, I enjoyed you guys. Thanks for the information. I'm a little bit more knowledgeable today than I was yesterday.
L-Dub, nothing but love for you, brother. Tell the family we said hello. Happy and blessed New Year to you, man.
Thanks, same to you guys.
All right, y'all. Listen, we got to hit the top of the hour. We got to get Coach back in. Man, again, these are the kind of discussions that are necessary that need to be had. Top of the hour right here on the lunch break.
1140 AM, KYOK Conroe, and 92.3 FM, K222CX Houston.
The views and opinions expressed on all radio shows broadcast on KYOK are entirely those of the host, guests, and callers who are entirely responsible for all show content and do not in any way reflect the opinions of KYOK Radio, its sponsors, staff, or management.
All right, y'all, we're back here on the lunch break on the legendary KYOK and the all-new 92.3 FM, streaming live on the legendary KYOKradio.org, and we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, we're on Twitch, and we're on Roku. That's right. If you got a Roku streaming device, all you got to do is look for BS3 TV. BS3 TV. Download that. You got us right in the middle of your big screen, in your media room. You know, I know somebody got the media rooms. I ain't fortunate. My living room, dining room, kitchen is my media room.
Yep. Got to make do with what we got. But
brother, I looked around my spot the other day. I said, man, this ain't nothing but a one-bedroom efficiency. That's all this is.
That's right. The office and the living room, all the same. You know, but we got work to do. So just make it work. Make it work. What you got?
Yeah. When Coach comes on, I want to ask him if he's ever coached a player like an Antonio Brown. And
I think we probably have all, like, it doesn't matter. You know, I've coached youth sports. I coached high schoolers for a little while, and there's always a kid there that you got to reach.
Yeah.
There's always. There's a kid from whatever it is. Look, you could have, you know, people think that you can spot that kid. You can't. These kids come from two-parent backgrounds that are lost. There are kids that come from no-parent backgrounds that are on a straight and narrow. And it's just, you just have to pay attention. And that's the thing is, we're asking. It's the same thing when we talk about the police, and I'm gonna just use it in this example. Is that we ask coaches to be things that they are not. Same way we do with cops. When people talk about defunding the police, it's about not asking them to do things they're not capable of doing. And that's the same with a coach. A coach is not your counselor. A coach is not a mental health professional. A coach is not a life coach. They are there to either, if you're in high school or whatever, they're there to teach a class and teach you about that sport. But we assign these things. We are willing to give up our power and give up that responsibility to these folks who are not prepared for it. But you're also empowering somebody who is also looking to be empowered. Yeah. So, you know, when you give that authority over to a coach, you give that authority over to anybody and they accept it willingly without understanding what that mantle means, that burden of taking on that responsibility for another person's life in that regard, then you're going to get the abuses of it. You're going to get people who mishandle it and end up with a lot of kids who are misguided because they have given themselves totally to somebody who didn't deserve it in the first place. So that coach worship has to end the way player worship has to end. We have to start understanding that these are just parts of society like every other one. They are not preferred classes. They are just another strata. And then when we get to that part of just leveling out our belief in these people, then we can start dealing with those issues.
Yeah. Well, one thing I know is the gentleman that just joined the program is none other than the Coach Johnnie Cole as we take our HBCU Stroll. I know him personally. I saw before I ever met him how he handled his young men, how he handled them personally on and off the field, how he made sure they went to class, how he was the person that was right there making sure that they were up and at it and carried themselves in a way that was representative of who they wanted to be, who their family sent them to be, and what the program was all about. I saw that in this man. So, Coach, we're bringing you in the middle of a pretty serious discussion related to Antonio Brown. But one thing that we said is I don't want to focus on Antonio Brown because Antonio Brown himself is not the problem. There's a bigger issue there. As you've been a head coach and been successful at it, what is important to you when you see a young man who might be having challenges, who might be, not just the one guy that you can coach like you coach everybody else? How do you handle that person that might have mental health issues or anger issues or problems with authority? How do you handle a player like that?
Well, first of all, I just, my prayers go out to Antonio Brown and his family and the Buccaneers organization. and hopefully that the issue is not mental. Hopefully he's just a knucklehead kid. And a lot of this, I have to go back to this stuff starts when they're in Pee Wee. This stuff starts when they're in Little League. You get a kid that's outstanding, early athletic ability, and they let him go through. I've been an AAU coach as well, and I've seen where I've put kids off my team, and then they go to the team in the next neighborhood because it starts from there. Because sometimes coaches put winning before developing kids, and at some stage, I feel at those early stages, what's more important is developing the whole kid, not necessarily just the athletic side of it. And some of these kids are just gifted. They're gifted, and you can see that. And those the kids really, as a coach, instead of letting him, because you can see the future in him, but in letting him and teaching him that it's more than just a game, that's the hard part. Coaches are seduced by talent. Most coaches are. That's why there's only very few coaches who win. I mean, Nick Saban, that's why he couldn't make it in the pros, I think, because Nick Saban thought about the team instead of the player. But you don't have that. These problems starts from when these kids are 8, 9, 10 that can pick up a ball, and that mental thing develop as well. Then you got the parents behind them and not supporting. I mean, we complain today about how the kids are in the schools system. I am in education. I am in the school system, and I see how these kids develop. It used to be when we went to school, our parents would side with the teacher first and foremost. Now you come in there, they siding with the kid. And I don't know what teacher in America, and I'm pretty sure it's some, of course there's bad cops, great cops, that would get up in the morning and tell themselves, well, let me mess with Johnnie Cole's kid today, and when I get up there, I'm not siding with my son. I'm gonna side with the teacher because that's the professional side of it. But again, this happened with Antonio Brown. Probably happened when he was a kid. He was good. He was good when he was a kid. I had a opportunity to meet his dad and actually coach behind his dad at Fort Scott Community College. So I know what kind of family he came from, a broken home. So I know what kind of family he came from. But like I said, again, a lot of this starts early in these kids and these guys from AAU to high school from middle school to high school, that you got to set some boundaries. You got to make those kids understand that the team is bigger than you. I used to tell my players that all the time. And I said, come August, it's going to be a ball kicked off, whether me and you on this team or not. So it's better for us to do what it takes to be on the team. You got to become the team. The team can't become you.
That's a lot. There's a lot in that. There's a lot in that, Coach Cole. And we got David Grubb. You haven't had a chance to meet him. He's a phenomenal broadcast journalist out of Louisiana. Hosts a show called Hard in the Paint. He's the voice of Tulane basketball, and also works with I can't say his name because he still don't like me yet. But he works with a very famous broadcast journalist in covering baseball in MLBpro.com. And David is very knowledgeable. He's my brother. And David, a lot of what Coach has said is really true. A lot of that starts so early, and you got parents that can even be pushing the athletics and the future more than stopping and dealing with the issues that that child might be dealing with. And then, like you said, when they become the hope of the family, he got to get to the high school championship. He got to get to a Power 5 school and make it to the national championship. He's got to be a top round draft choice so we all can come up. Man, there's a whole lot of overlooking mental health, and there's a whole lot of overlooking anger and addictions and all the kind of things that could really derail a young man or young lady on their athletic journey.
Because we've commodified athletics and tied it to education. And that's the problem, is if education in America were done right, these kids would have access to education, good education regardless. And see, that's the problem. We're the only country in the world where our education and athletics are tied together at this level. When we get to in high school and collegiate sports, there is no such thing like that in Europe. And there's a reason, because those kids have access to a good, solid education. They know they're going to college regardless of whether or not they have athletic, like they have that opportunity is there for them. These kids don't have that. So you've set up a system that says you have to sell your body, essentially. You have to sell your body to get to college, which is the only opportunity you have either to physically go to the next level, be the NFL or NBA, whatever. So physically, you're selling your body that whole time from the time you're 9, 10 years old, and somebody identifies that you are an exceptional athlete. So they're pushing you in that direction. They've already told you now that athletics is number one in your life. Either it's your parents or somebody outside, whoever has identified you has said athletics is now number one. So if that's the case, and if that's my ticket, and you're telling me that's my ticket, then why should I listen to anybody else telling me about something that's not my ticket? You talking this nonsense over here. So that's what you created. That we created this system where it's dependent on this constant turnover of bodies to get into to colleges. And that's not where these kids should be doing it, because the parents have to buy into that. They have no choice either. They're stuck in their system. So they're pushing their kids to get everybody out. And these other people looking to exploit that talent and get what they can out of it. So you put a kid in a position too to eventually say, what's in it for me? Because I may not even really want to do this. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of people who are pro athletes who had no desire to be pro athletes. They just have aptitude and opportunity. And they figure this is the fastest way for me to get this money, which is not something I love to do. And we all do that at certain times in our life. We've all taken jobs doing things that we didn't love to do, but maybe we had an aptitude for it and could get paid for it. And I think that that's going to happen in any profession. But you have a lot of these kids who have to take these choices that have been given because those are the only ones that are offered to them. It's not to excuse anybody. Everybody's got to understand. We got to analyze everybody's role in this and understand how we got to these situations and how we're going to break out of them. Because it's the simple thing is to say, we all can identify where the problems are, but what are we going to do to break those things? Because it's not going to fall on one athlete. It's not going to fall on one family. It's not going to fall on Antonio Brown or Nick Saban. The unfortunate part of this is a system-wide thing that we have to start breaking down and start reassessing how we view athletics in our society, how we treat our athletes, and what do we really want for them as whole people. Because the Greek ideal for athletics and academics was that there was a marriage. The American ideal is no such thing, is that we completely separate the mind and the body. And that goes into not just the way we treat professional athletes, but how we treat ourselves when we talk about mental health and physical health, that we view mental health as something abstract that we have no desire to deal with because we can't see it, but we can see our bodies and we can watch physical development so we can deal with those things. But dealing with where a person is, we ascribe behaviors to age, we ascribe behaviors to background without ever treating any of these athletes as individuals and knowing what their individual story is. And as long as we could keep treating people as a big glot, this conglomerate of just the athlete, instead of understanding that these are individuals and human beings, and we start telling them again, what you have to explain to them too, what is the sacrifice for? We all want to be part of a team. I think all human beings want to be part of something that's bigger. But if there's no place for me in the team, I don't think any team should require you to give up all of yourself. And I don't think most teams want you to give up all of yourself. But at a certain level, if you're going to play major college sports, they want you to give all of yourself. That's why you sign over your name and your likeness and all those things beforehand. That's why you give up all your rights to your transfer and all those things. The school controls all those things because there is a trade-off that's unbalanced. And the power dynamics are always off for the athlete from the time that they're born to the time they retire. They're never on a solid footing with everybody else who has power around them.
Coach Cole, hold that thought. I got to take a break, but I know you wanted to respond to that, and I got a question for you that piggybacks off that. So stay right there. Let's take our first break. Coach Johnnie Cole, David Grubb joining us here. It's our HBCU Stroll, but we're talking about sports as a whole, and I want to compartmentalize that on the HBCU front when we come back right after this on the lunch break.
If you have $2,000 or more in credit card debt,
Coach, don't forget your comment now.
We can reduce or eliminate.
Oh, I won't, Coach.
Your monthly payment up to 50%.
I mean, coaching, you go through this every day.
Has been helping good people just like you get out of debt for over 30 years. Don't get stressed out. If you have $2,000 or more in credit card debt and medical bills, we can show you a way to reduce.
I mean, it's not hard to understand that the HBCUs have not been in that same position of doing that.
You have
Because you don't have the economically, you can't do that. You can't afford to sit there and do that at HBCU. You got to have people who are going to graduate, because you can't keep going back to your board. You need to. But we know what statistics show: kids who go to HBCUs graduate at a higher rate. Black males graduate at a higher rate. Major institutions are not worried about that graduation rate. They're churning out those bodies.
Well, I know on HBCUs, you know, our graduations are not that high, but athletically they are.
Compared to relatively speaking, yeah.
Because the kids have guidance,
Affordable health
a
insurance.
little more guidance, you know, and feel a little
People
more
who look like you.
good about themselves.
Helpline can help you get it. We specialize in helping
All the black folk didn't necessarily, and we know there's problems on HBCU campuses. I've worked on a couple, and I've worked for a couple of HBCU conferences.
And some even dental, vision, and prescription drugs. Don't take a risk with your family's health insurance. It's not worth it. If you're self-employed or now need affordable health insurance, call right now and learn for free how to get it. Listen, affordable health insurance plans for everyone just like you are a free phone call away. So give us a shout right now.
800-472-5145. 800-472-5145. 800-472-5145. That's 800-472-5145.
All right,
y'all, here we go.
Okay, 1140 AM and 92.3 FM. My name is Devon McDonald from Jamaica, live with Indianapolis Colts, and listen, you listen to the lunch break.
Appreciate you there, Devon McDonald. Thanks for the drop. It's oh my goodness Monday, bunch of oh my goodness moments. We're talking about the not just the scores and the highlights, though. Talking about some life stuff right now. Got the Coach Johnnie Cole, of course, as we take our HBCU stroll. Got my brother David Grubb, host of Hard in the Paint, MLBBro.com, and the voice of Tulane basketball. Tulane looking pretty good this year. I'm just letting folks know. But anyway, Coach, you wanted to respond to what David said before the break, and then I have a question for you after your response.
Yeah, I think his response is very true, but I think it's a quarter of what the real problem is, and it's just like anything else. I think in my experience, it comes from home. Home has to be better. It comes from broken homes. And like I said, these kids start this mental trace, especially if they're athletes. From the time they're young and start getting into high school. I mean, you hear so many crazy stories about what coaches do. I'm up here in the Fort Worth, Dallas area, where coaches actually brought two kids in and put them in a home together. And they end up one of them killing each other just because they can play sports. You have to ask yourself, well, why would the coach do that? Then I go even further. Why would I want my kid to leave and go play for somebody and stay in the house with two other kids when you have no supervision? At the end of the day, it's, and I always say, was who's running the prison? Is the warden running the prison or the prisoners? Well, when I'm coaching football, you got to give these kids the guidance. Just like when I became a teacher, one of the things they always taught us is when those kids come in, you got that window to make them respect you. When they come in, you already have something for them to do. Not when they can come in and just sit down and do anything. They'll come in and make sure they have something to do. When I've coached, when our kids would come in, we have them on a pattern. We give them a book of these are the rules and regulations that we're going to follow. Not only are they going to follow them, as coaches, we going to follow them. And I think that's where it starts at. And once they get there, I said earlier, we're so seduced with talent, and everybody got the "what have you done for me lately" microwave oven. Some of these coaches will do anything to win. They know the kid is messing up. They know the kid ain't doing what he's supposed to do. And then at these PWI schools, what they have done was put into place curriculums. So these kids can come in the curriculums and make it through school, or keep them eligible so they can play.
Yeah,
but again, where's the person? where's the person that's supervising that kid? Where's that somebody who's looking after that kid? You know,
But how can you ask a person who's a parent who's undereducated? In a lot of these circumstances, we talk about parents who are undereducated. How are they supposed to navigate a system that they don't understand themselves? You can't we talk about a system that's bigger. We say it starts with the parents.
I say something?
The system started before.
Can I say
It's
something?
bigger than the parents.
My mother had an 8th grade education, and
But
my father had a
we do individual examples that talk about a systemic problem. That's like saying one black person can get rich. That's the reason everybody can get rich.
We don't have a systemic problem that everybody is uneducated.
We in this country we do have a systemic education problem. We have a huge education problem. Our gap between black and white is a huge gap.
Yeah, but that don't mean all of them have superstar athletes.
I'm saying in general. I'm saying a systemic issue is an issue that affects everyone in general, and I don't think it's fair to make this a. We do this to parents, and we say it's a parental issue, but the systems are bigger than any one parent. It's just like policing is not a one cop issue. It's a systemic issue. You can't repair one parent and think you fix the system. You can repair all the parents, but if the system outside of those parents is broken still, the parents still don't have enough power to change it.
But it's just like the old African parable. It takes a village to raise a kid.
But we're not talking about raising a child. We're talking about an economically exploitative system.
But that's where it starts.
No, we got to be real about this. This is about economics.
But every kid that's in the NBA or in the NFL or any professional sports don't all of a sudden come from money, don't come from an educational family, and every kid
that comes there isn't poor either, and every kid
you would have these incidents happening all the time.
But you are saying for certain that Antonio Brown's incident comes from his childhood, and we don't know that for certain. I don't think that's a fair statement to make, that we know for certain that he was raised to behave this way. I don't think that whether his parents or coaches or whatever created this monster. I'm not saying that that's the case. I can't speak on that for certain.
I'm not saying that's the case either. But some things got to start from the ground up.
But it wasn't the parents that has nothing to do with what happened yesterday. Antonio Brown's parents did not cause what happened yesterday.
I didn't just say his parents. That's all a part of it. It all goes together.
But you're boiling it down to
when you got good parents. When you got good parents, I've been coaching
people
for
with good parents who are terrible people. I know a lot of people with terrible people got good parents.
I've been coaching for 35 years. I've coached kids all over America. I've recruited all over America, and I'm telling you that when I get a kid, I've got transfers. I've got kids with records. When you put them in a systematic way, and you say this is how it's done, they will follow you. These kids do not have discipline. And that discipline if it don't come from home, it should be coming from that coach at an early age.
Coach, that's the same every generation.
Hold on, David. Let me jump in this. First of all, I wanted this free-flowing discussion because we got to have the discussion. And I agree that not every issue starts from childhood. Not every issue is related to the parents. But Coach, it leads me to the question I have for you. Because you say discipline. You say discipline. Discipline doesn't always fix mental health issues. Discipline doesn't always address some of the things that are outside discipline issues. So my question is more of this. Do we expect too much from you as a coach to handle all that goes with our children, our athletes? Because they're a child before they were an athlete. Do we put too much pressure on the coach to be a counselor, a therapist, a disciplinarian, a coach, a winning coach, all the above?
I think all of it's a part of it. It's a team of people. I've coached kids with mental issues, whether he was on his medication. All the information that you should know about that kid as a coach, you should know. I had a kid transfer from LSU. Matter of fact, he had mental issues. We had to make sure as a staff, as a medical staff, and as a parent, that we make sure that this kid was on his medical. I'm not saying put it all on the coach. And I'm not saying put it all on the parents. It's a team issue.
That's not what he's asking you should that be the coach's job? The coach's job is supposed to be to teach the game and to do those things. But I think what he's saying is are we putting an undue responsibility on people who are not necessarily qualified? And this is not an insult to the coach. It's just saying putting burdens.
It's a fair question.
I think it's a
condemning
system thing. I don't think it's just one person. I think it's a system. Does the coach play a part? Yes, he does. If I'm coaching the kid, I want to know everything about him to get everything out of him.
So Coach, let me follow up on it. Do you feel qualified to deal with everything that might come with one child or multiple children that have issues that far exceed X's and O's? I'm asking you personally.
I think when you sit in that seat as a football coach, as a head football coach, you should have those qualifications. Not directly, not putting him on the couch. I'm not saying that. I'm saying making sure that this kid is taken care of, because this, I look at it as a coach and I tell my kids, look, I'm going to get paid. It's my job to get you across that stage and develop you as a professional. That's my philosophy. Some coaches don't care about that. They want to win championships and they're going to throw those kids away. I think as a team, I can't take a backseat, or I can't turn my head to say, yeah, this kid's a mental issue, but as long as he can make tackles, I'm cool with that. I'm not coaching a kid like that. I've never had. If the kid has some mental issues, which I've coached, and I can give you names, and I don't want to do that. Exactly. That I actually was involved with their parents. I was involved with their doctors. I think as a head coach that you should have that responsibility. Not totally. I'm not saying not totally. It takes a village. I believe that. It takes the whole team to make sure that these people develop, or they shouldn't be out there.
Before we take a break, let me make sure I understand what you're saying, because I think it has some value. And that's, as a coach, I'm responsible, but I'm also more of a facilitator. I want to make sure that I facilitate him or her taking their medicine. I want to facilitate making sure that they have their regular scheduled appointments with their doctors, their therapists, whatever the case may be. You take that kind of approach as opposed to, like you said, someone who's just concerned about wins, losses, and championships.
Listen, guys, when we go out to recruit, when a coach go out to recruit, he's representing the whole university. He should know everything about that kid that he's bringing in, because that kid, that we invested in that kid. It's no different than investing in a stock. You guys are saying, if somebody come up to you and say, invest in electrical cars, you're not going to research. You're not going to find out what's going on about it. You're just going to take your money and invest, and I know nothing about it.
Nobody said that.
No, I'm saying, I'm asking.
Yeah, no, that's not.
What I'm saying is, that shouldn't be the coach's job, because I doubt that there are very few coaches who are qualified, and having met a lot of coaches. And this is not to insult the profession of coaching. Most teachers that I know don't know how to deal with day-to-day mental illness of kids, or not even mental illness, mental challenges. Because all things are not necessarily illness. They're things that have to be adapted for an individual kid. And when we talk about the world of sports is inherently resistant to adaptation for the individual. So if there's an individual amongst your team who on that day, mentally they are unable to go because of the health issue that they deal with, if they cannot practice, they need to be away from the team on that day. I don't know a lot of coaches, and this is just my experience in dealing with coaches and talking with them. I don't know a lot of coaches who say, I'm okay with you sitting out today because you have a mental health, you need a mental health day for real, because you are going through something and you cannot contribute. I know that would be met more often with denigration. You let people down. You've done this, other than I need you to go take care of you so you can be better for us. We're here. The team is also supposed to be here to support the individual as much as the individual is supposed to support the team. And this is not about you, the individual coach, but This is the system-wide problem is much more so of give yourself to the team, but what is the team going to give back to you at the highest levels? What is the team going to do for you at the highest levels? Because we don't see nearly as much of that as we should of those teams rallying around, except when these situations are dire. We don't deal with the kids when their situations are regular, when they just need an intervention early on. And I'm not talking about in a major way. They just need some understanding. We wait till it's dire and then we say, I dealt with that issue. Well, sometimes it requires different steps for different individuals in an office. Some people are great for 5 hours a day 8 hours a day for 5 days a week. Some people are better for 10 hours on 4 days. But sports does not do well with, we have to admit that too, that sports as a culture does not do well with the individual. We saw that with Simone Biles about her obligation to team over her obligation to herself. And I think, the discussion, we rarely have the discussion about the power of the individual because we treat the individual as selfish in those moments when they choose to take care of themselves.
Well, the question was, I thought the question was, does the coach or should the coach have...
I'm saying that's why the coach is not qualified for that, because the culture does not lend itself to the coach doing those things. Somebody has to be there because the coach's interest is to win. The coach has to win games, has to do these things.
But
the coach is not the advocate for the student. The coach is not the advocate for the student.
That's what I'm telling you. I differ. That's
different. Not the system.
Some coaches differ from that.
But that's not
all
most.
Coaches just don't say win at all costs.
It's not most.
So Coach,
man, you don't know most. We don't know.
We know
most.
the system.
We see these incidents come up. Every now and then, all of a sudden, everybody.
So you're telling me when you were a player, you're telling me you're a player. If you had walked up to your coach and said, "Coach, I cannot do this mentally today. I'm not here, Coach. I can't do it. I'm gonna put myself. I'm not gonna go out there, and I could get myself hurt. I'm not in the place that I need to be. I need to sit out today. I need to go and talk to somebody. I'm not having a day, Coach." You think your coach? You telling me that your coach would have said, "I understand. I'm gonna let you sit out practice today. You're right. Your individual health is just as important as our preparations for the game on Saturday." You tell me that's the truth.
I'm telling you that I think it's more so the other way around. And what I'm saying by that is when a coach wants to take a top player out of the game, and that player is not.
I'm not talking about the game. I'm talking about the individual on a day-to-day. You're talking about a moment in a game. I'm talking about on a day-to-day. You said on a day-to-day basis. You said most in your experience.
Hold on, David.
I'm not saying it in just my experience, but I've seen coaches where when players said, "Coach, I'm not hitting it today," they take off. I don't think you're saying it the right. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think you're saying it the right way. Especially if a kid is a player and say, "I don't feel like going today,"
I don't feel like. See, that's a different statement.
Coach.
Wait, hold on.
If he said, I'm not feeling it or whatever, what are you saying? The coach should sit down and talk to him and evaluate?
No, I'm saying the coach is going to already know
if the kid got some mental issues. That's what I'm saying. The coach should already know. Here's the difference where it's unbalanced. Is when the coach is saying, "No, son, you can't play," and then the athlete is saying, "Coach, I can go.
That's not what we're talking.
Now I would say to you, what you saying is true. Because 9 times out of 10, if a kid tells a coach, "I can go," that coach gonna let him go. But I don't think there's a coach, if a kid is telling the coach that he can't go and he ain't feeling it that day, that coach is gonna make him go.
I don't believe that.
Let me jump in there. I think we're melding multiple situations into one. It's more than a player saying, I don't feel it today. When somebody is having a mental health challenge, it's beyond a feeling. When they're having a mental health crisis or episode, it's beyond a feeling. It's bigger than that. And if a player, be it male, female, is able to even ascertain that I cannot do this today, that in itself is a huge step. There are coaches that we know of that have literally gone to the press and said that player was not mentally strong, that player gave up on their team. Let's not talk about them. Let's talk about those that went out and played the game, those that were here. One coach even said something to the effect of, "We're not talking about the dead, we're talking about the living." And that person hadn't died. That person just could not mentally pull it together that day. So I think it would be remiss to act like there is not a number of coaches that literally will tie that to the entire team as opposed to the individual that needed some understanding at that moment, whether they're the counselor or the therapist. That's why I said my question was very innocuous. My question was not accusatory or judgmental or anything. I literally feel like we have too much of an expectation on coaches to be too many things when they really should be, like we talked about earlier, somebody who says, hey, listen, I'm here to coach. I love you. I care about you. And because I care about you, let me make sure you get to your therapist, not be the therapist, not be the one doling out medicine. This society is a little bit different than when we were younger. Nowadays, kids, they've got attorneys faster than their parents do. So, I feel like we're putting too much on the coach, and maybe the expectation is too great in this industry, trillion-dollar industry of sports.
I think we're saying the same thing, guys. I'm not saying that the coach is a psychiatrist, or if the kid come in and then the coach said, well, let me sit down and talk to you. If the coach knows about the kid, knows that he has some issues, and the kid is telling him, hey, I got some issues, I ain't feeling it today, I'm thinking that the coach would point him in the right direction.
But there's no edict
the coach
for that.
would stop and say, well, come on to my office. Let's sit down and let me go through. I'm not saying that.
That's not what we're saying either.
Okay.
That's not what we're saying either, Coach. What we're saying is it doesn't make any sense for the kid to go to the coach in that situation. It's not, you wouldn't go to the teacher. You wouldn't go to your professor in those circumstances. If you couldn't go to class, you would not go to class. You would choose not to go to class. You take them, you deal with them, you go to the school medical personnel, and they would deal with you and they would give you whatever it is. For sports, you have to go to the coach. The coach is the intermediary, and the coach has an authority that is not the same as it's given to any other type of instructor. So I think that problem is what AJ and I are saying is that burden shouldn't even be on the coach. Is that if we were running the system correctly, the students would have access, the student athletes would have the access. They would already know about what's available to them because it's part of the structure. From the time that they were coming up, they knew what resources are available to them. That's why when we say this is a systemic issue, it's bigger than just getting people to act a right way, because the system itself does not function right. It does not serve the needs of the people it's supposed to protect, which are the student athletes ultimately. And that's what we're saying. It's not an individual criticism of one person. It's a problem systemically that needs to be addressed in who are we giving these responsibilities to? Because the average coach is not trained behavior psychology. They're not trained in team dynamics. They're not trained in business. They're not the average coach. The average coach is not trained in those things. And these are things that we are asking them to do. Even in the NIL era, if you want to take away the mental part of it, you take the business part. You're asking coaches to be educating student athletes on their earning potential when it's not in their interest to do certain things on this level. The athlete.
Let me interrupt for a second, because we got someone from the mental health profession that just chimed in. She says much more education and awareness needs to happen within the system. Needing the time away mentally is associated with not going hard, or the person is lazy. Most won't give the athlete a break. And that's just an unfortunate reality. And Coach, I'm going to own this. I'm not saying this about you. Mm-hmm. I think it's more of the majority, not the exception. There are very few coaches that have the kind of compassion that you have. And that's one of the things that stands out for me about you. Coach, did I lose you?
He's muted. Unmute, Coach.
Coach, your mute button is on. I don't think he can hear us either. He lost. He went off. All right. We'll get him back on in a second. But again, Felicia Green Johnson is someone who's in that profession. One of our sponsors of our show is the Hartwell Clinic, and they are phenomenal, mental health professionals that deal with athletes, that deal with business professionals, and they also deal with, the Joes and the pros. So, Coach, can you hear us?
Yeah, I get you.
Okay. So again, my thing is you're an exception. You are by far an exception, and a very good exception.
Can I say one thing?
Please.
And I think we all on the right page. And I just wanted to, and I hear you guys are talking about some things that happen, and athletes should know their system. And you know, here's an example. When our freshman class gets in, you know, we have everybody come talk to them. Medical people come talk to them. Academic people come talk. The president, you know, the food service, and we give them direction of where they need to go. Again, recruiting a kid, you know if he has, or you should know if he has some type of mental situation.
But you won't know all those things because some things, again, don't present themselves prior to that. The parents may not know.
Yeah. So you're saying a kid that comes in with a mental issue that hadn't been attended to. Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying that's only a component of this. Whether or not you know they have a mental, we're talking about. That's what I'm saying. The whole system. It's not just about the mental health of the athlete. It's about the athlete in general. This is a system that's not designed to benefit the athlete.
I just, you know, systems are different at different places. I just truly just can't believe that, you know, all these colleges that's having these programs, and I know there is. I think there's some truth to what you're saying, no question about it. And some of these athletes slip through. Some of them slip through and don't have the attention that they need. So I mean, I can agree with that. But I just think as a coach, I'm not going to coach a kid and put winning over their health in the direction I'm trying to push them in. I've never done that.
Here's a parent that has a child at a Power 5 PWI, and he said, AJ, me and my wife wrestled with sharing our child's mental health diagnoses because that would have put him at an unfair advantage. Once we got to know the coaches and once we got to know them personally, then we started to let them know what we felt would have hurt him in his recruiting.
Yeah, because we know also that people will use that against you. That they like, even if they want you as your talent, when something goes in, we've seen the language. We know how look, I've been around and in enough practices to know how coaches talk to players. And at times when they want to motivate you and they pull out the darkest thing in your life, and I'm not saying that is never right, but they'll take out the thing that you are most ashamed of or the most embarrassed of or most weak about. And they'll take that forward and they'll use it against you in public. And they say, oh, this is the boy that has to go to see the doctor on Tuesday afternoons. That's when that stuff will come out. And that's why those things are very hard for parents to bring about because of that stigma. As Ms. Johnson is talking about, that stigma that's associated with it. You don't want to talk about it because the lack of connection that we have between mental strength and physical strength and mental issues of a moment, whether they are real, you know, ongoing issues or they are, like you said, episodic issues. We don't deal with those well. And most coaches and most schools and most student athletes are not educated about those things because we also have a huge stigma amongst Black people too in mental health and getting counseling and getting those things and getting diagnosed. So there's a huge underservice of Black mental health that we have to deal with, again, which should not be on the athletic department's tab. It's because the systemic issues of not helping these kids early on, whether they're athletes or non-athletes. We don't have a system that benefits them, and it doesn't benefit their parents. And the coach has given way too much power in most circumstances to have that information. That's school information. There's a difference between that.
When you say benefit, can you be more specific? Because
it's an exploitative economic model.
Student athlete myself, when I went to college, my scholarship was my benefit. My direction, the things that were added that were given to me were benefits for me coming in and playing.
The scholarship was not a benefit. See, me and you already diametrically opposed because you're talking about a scholarship as a benefit. You earned that. The academic kid earned it, right? Nobody says your scholarship is a benefit. It's the byproduct of work that you did for years. And that's what an athletic scholarship is, the byproduct of work.
But the benefit of the scholarship
you need
is the education to take care of me for the rest of my life.
No.
So
that's not what coaches are selling
about benefits?
You telling me that a kid that they sold Michael Vick when he was coming out, he's the #1 high school player in the country. They sold Michael Vick on the educational properties of Virginia Tech. You telling me that when they take in the number one recruits, these 5-star recruits, that they're selling them on the educational opportunity at the University of Alabama, or they sell them on the chance that you're gonna go pro? Are they telling those kids more of a night you going pro?
Time out. Coach, I know it. It's boiling. Hold on. David, time out. Go to your.
I like David.
I know you do.
I like you, Coach.
I got to take a break. For the casual listener, we all love each other.
David, I want to know specifically your benefits.
You gonna come on the pod now. Johnnie Cole, you coming on the pod, and we're gonna do this on the podcast. I'm gonna get with Johnnie Cole. We're gonna have him more hard to paint, and we're gonna go round for round on this.
All right, I gotta take a break. Y'all don't say nothing else. Don't say nothing else. I'll be right back right after this on the lunch break on the legendary KYOK. It's oh my goodness Monday.
Well, I hope you are enjoying your weekend. Hey, everybody, it's Erica.
Y'all are hilarious.
We're gonna do it. Let's do it. We should have a pod. I mean, we should do one. I mean, it's not combative. We're gonna have a discussion because there's a discussion that continues to need to be had. So I look forward to it. Send me AJ. Send me the info.
I like that too because every kid plays ball, Coach. Every kid plays football, but they don't get scholarships.
Every kid goes to class. They don't all get scholarships either.
Exactly. So the benefit of it is I'm gonna pay you for your talent.
You're not paying, but it's not a payment. That's the whole thing. It's not a payment. I'm paying for it with my talent. I'm getting the education. I'm paying for it with my physical ability. That's what I'm doing.
To help consumers during these
and you can take it away at any time, whether I perform or not. You can take it away at any time. So it is not a benefit.
Not necessarily now.
Yes, you absolutely can. You can pull a scholarship at any time.
No, you got to have a reason to.
No, you don't. No, you don't. The NCAA does not require coach a reason.
Don't let them fool you. You got to have a reason to.
They got to have a reason.
Yes,
every year kids get dropped without a reason. Every year, coach tells them you can't be on this program. We got no scholarship.
Well, that's because
it's a one-year renewable scholarship.
Yeah, that's because they don't have no family. They evidently don't have no family support and know the rules.
But see, that's the whole thing. We're putting the system on the onus on children and their parents to be protected from a system that is going to use them up on purpose.
So you saying they should go back old school and give a 4-year scholarship no matter what? That kid got 4 years.
They never did that. They never gave you 4 years. That's a myth.
Back in the day, they used to give 4 years.
No, it's a 1-year renewable for 4 years. The NCAA
I'm saying before that rule came in place.
No,
when my brother went to Nebraska,
did he have to go sign his paper? But he had to go sign his paperwork every year. They didn't keep. He wasn't under it for 4 years. He had to go re-sign that paperwork every year because they could pull your scholarship.
That's not true.
Y'all hold on. Save it for the show. Y'all ruining my ratings.
But I gotta get my NCAA manual on David.
Wait a minute.
Pull my manual out.
We going right after this. Hold on.
I wish I had my stuff with me. I'd have been able to pull the page out on it.
9359. That's 800-603.
Dixie Wilson.
359.
Beautiful people, this is major.
Because each year, July 1st, the school has to notify the athlete whether or not.
All right, y'all. Listen, I gotta get back in here, man. Bill Walton used to say whenever he had a guest and the guest wanted to talk off air, save it for the show, big man. Save it for the show. All right, so y'all save it for the show. They just had a whole segment off air while I was trying to show my Sam Jones autographed basketball. May Sam Jones rest in peace. Only person still on the planet that has more championship rings than him is
Bill Russell.
Bill Russell. I got a chance to interview Sam Jones a couple of months ago before he passed, and I'm not gonna lie, I was starstruck. And I got a chance to talk to him off air before the interview. And man, I tell you, it just blew my mind, his humility and his knowledge and the life issues surrounding him leaving North Carolina. He went to North Carolina Central and, going into the pros in an area where, oh yeah, by the way, at that time, they didn't want you there. They didn't want you there. And he was like a big brother, if you will, to Bill Russell, and kept Big Bill out of some trouble, according to his recount of their time coming up. So I just wanted to acknowledge him. He just passed at the end of the year. Got a chance to know his son a little bit, and we want to reach out to the Jones family and extend our deepest condolences because we lost a basketball legend and an activist. He was an NCAA activist long before we got to this time in our lives. So I just want to make sure we acknowledge him today. That being said, we are having a very frank and raw discussion, and I mean it, man. I got people saying this discussion is fire. This discussion is the kind of stuff we need to have. Thank you for focusing on this and not just scores and highlights. We can get to those anytime, or just some of the comments that are coming in. So I know y'all were having a discussion about scholarships and how that is not a benefit. Coach, I know you want to respond, but let me go ahead and put myself on the opposite side. In love, Newt, we own the bond. Scholarships are earned. That's not payment for my son. Scholarships are earned. I earned that scholarship, and maybe I only got scholarship offers for 2 or 3 schools or 1 school. I still earned that scholarship. They weren't passing them out in the bursar's office. They weren't passing them out in the student center. You earned that scholarship, so that's above a benefit to me when you earn something. Go ahead, Coach.
No, I just want to be with both of you guys to see then what benefits do you think that a college should give you? What's the difference between, explain that to me.
I'm gonna hush because y'all ain't gonna like my answer. I want how much do we make for that bowl game?
Yeah.
I need my cut. I need my bonus.
So you want amateur athletes to get paid, right?
The amateur is a made-up word. The NCAA made up the word amateur. It did not exist. There was no such thing.
They should pay for a kid to come there and play. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And you don't think there's going to be stuff behind that as well?
There's always stuff when you pay people. Yeah, there's always stuff. So you can't say the emergence of a different problem means that we don't correct. That's like saying, well, you don't think that if I give you the right to vote at 21 instead of 18, it's not going to have consequences. It always has consequences when you move something. That doesn't mean it's wrong to do it.
Yeah. So you feel athletes should get paid?
They work. It's a job.
I'm just asking. I'm not.
I agree.
I just been a coach.
But coach, I'm a former CFO. I know how to put the money in the right place. So this whole we ain't gonna be able to figure it out. We don't know. If you know how to bill somebody, you know how to pay somebody. That same system that you use to push out their bill for their classes based on their major, you can push out their payment for their particular sport. You sure can.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a problem with paying college students. I just want to know what was y'all benefit about. You kept on saying a benefit.
I got you.
Then I didn't understand. Then what benefit are you talking about?
Intrinsic value is not something that you can quantify. So I can't say your education inherently has value. I can't promise that to you because we've seen it, like in the North Carolina case, where they were, steering young men into majors that were not going to, and we see it on college campuses a lot. And again, it's not about any one school, and we can point out the good ones, but the overall example is that there are far too many student athletes who get steered into. You see the defensive line, everybody got the same major. That's not going to happen in any other thing. You're not going to go through a row of freshmen in any other place, and you're going to find everybody's in the same major. In football, we see that. Why do we see that? Because we're not concerned about the overall education of these young men. We're not.
I gotta steal the show. Coach, in a minute or less, do you feel like this is where HBCUs can differentiate themselves from PWIs and definitely from Power 5 football mills?
When you say differentiate themselves, can you be more specific?
Yeah, where they can literally put a model in place that cares about the student, regardless of whether it's about their athletics. So yeah, I got a 5-star defensive back, but I also got a future doctor or brain surgeon or whatever this person chooses.
Or tax attorney or whatever.
Whatever they choose to be.
I think what HBCUs add, especially to African American athletes, is a sense of pride, a sense of caring about the kid, a sense of making them belong, a sense of having You know, HBCUs is more personal from their instructors and the teachers and the coaches, and some kids, some African American kids can handle the PWI. Maybe that's how they've been brought up, but I think more so at an HBCU school, a kid gets more nurturing. If he does have some mental issue, if he does have some problem coming from home, I think he'll feel more comfortable in feeling at home, and that he can share that with. So yeah, I think there's a big issue and a big disparity between at the PWI. I think the PWI is all about the money. We don't care about if you graduate. All we care about is that you're going out there and you're gonna play 60 minutes. It's about winning on that weekend. More so in the HBCU, that's important. But my experience has been that we more so care about the athlete, because we actually looking at ourselves, and when you see that kid and you see yourself in that kid, you tend to be more personable than more commercial.
Coach, now I like what you said there, because that right there is it says a lot. When I give you my son or my daughter, for the amount of time that you have them, I want you to see yourself, or at least see your son or your daughter. And again, I'm not knocking, the non-Black coaches or what have you. I think parenting and nurturing is innate in many of us, but not all of us. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that we have a story to tell about nurture. I have a son that doesn't do well in big environments. When I had him in a big public school, he didn't do well. Soon as I put him in a smaller private school where the coach didn't just try to get him eligible to play, but the coach tried to get him to class and to study and to do those kind of things, he did extremely well. When I sent him off to a big school college-wise, he didn't do well. I had to go get him. When I put him in HBCU in Baton Rouge, guess what? He did extremely well. Yeah. And I think that story can be more vertical across the campus than just on the football field, basketball court, baseball diamond, and so on.
No question. I just, you said about the two parents that didn't want to tell the coaches about their son's mental issue, because hell, you should have never sent your kid there. You should, that's one of the first things you should have shared with them to get a feel on who's going to take care of my child. I'm not going to send my child without no coat and shirt in Alaska, and the coach ain't going to buy him a jacket. That bothered me a little bit. But I know we don't have time to get into that, but that bothered me a little bit. I'm not going to send my kid nowhere nobody ain't going to take care of. And we do it all the time. I'm going to agree with you. Right. We do it all the time. Right. All we think about is the TV, the money, and we do it all the time. And we do sell our kids or the athletic ability, and we give that away. I definitely agree with that.
Listen, y'all, we got to leave it here. And I know we left this surgery wide open, but we got to close them up and make sure we don't leave any utensils inside of them. Coach Johnnie Cole, tell everybody where they can find you and follow you as you do your great stuff.
Twitter, Hobo, Big Offense on Twitter, Instagram, Cold-Blooded 9, and Facebook.
All right, Coach. David, thank you as always. They can find you and follow
Dave,
you as well.
You great, man.
We're gonna talk again, and I think
yes, sir.
No, I'm not saying this as a challenge, but I really think that, let's have the conversation, because I think people are responding to it, and I think it's something that we can continue to do. We both are gonna learn something from it, and hopefully we get it to the audience.
I definitely learned some, especially about the benefits. I'm gonna go back and do my research, and we be ready to go.
Yeah, but if you want to follow me at DM Grubb on Instagram and Twitter, and then of course hitpwithdg.com is the website, and check out Hard to Paint wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, y'all, I got to kick y'all off so I can take care of the business, but I will make sure y'all get connected, and I'm tuning in to that show. All right?
Oh, it's coming soon.
All right, y'all. All right, brothers, love y'all both, man. Y'all take it easy. All right, y'all, we got to get ready to go. Of course, we've got Donnie McClurkin up next with the Donnie McClurkin Show. He'll give you the best in gospel music, the latest in the gospel music industry. Donnie does his thing every Monday through Friday from 2 to 3. And then, Lord say the same, I'll be back with our first Talk Your Team Tuesday, we'll get into some of these playoffs. Real quick, happy birthday to Joni Dial, Oslin Bowski. Happy birthday to Carolyn Hemphill Ingram. Happy birthday, Tammy Batiste. Happy birthday to Ayana Luke, Trina Matthews, Jackie Hill Murphy, Rhonda Morris, Roberta Smith-Bogany. She's 60 today. Happy birthday, Danielle Shaw, and happy birthday to Joe Held. On the celebrity side, happy birthday going out to the following folks. Hank Stram, former head coach of Kansas City. Bud Adams Jr., former owner of the Tennessee Titans. Willie T. Ribbs, the first African-American to drive in the Indianapolis 500. Cheryl Miller, my first professional sports crush. David Tyree and Eli Manning, all born on this day. As always, let's not be divided. Let's be united. I love you.
The legendary 1140 AM KYOK Conroe and 92.3 FM K222CX Houston.
All right, y'all. Listen, what a show, man. What a hot show today. And I want to appreciate Coach Cole. I want to appreciate David Grubb, L-Dub, and I want to appreciate all of your comments as well. Once again, I told y'all about this on Friday, the autographed basketball that I got from Sam Jones and the book that he wrote. This is why I interviewed him. Got an autographed copy of the book. Again, y'all keep his family in your prayers. And, you know, I know there are other people that are bereaved, other people that just ended the year one way and are trying to start it in a whole different way. Be mindful and sensitive to other people around you. Just because it's a happy new year for you, it might not be happy for other people. And I think when we're sensitive to each other, we can be gracious to each other and we can be helpful to each other. So as always, not this, definitely this. Look forward to talking to y'all tomorrow. Okay, take care.